Finally, there's Kathy Orlando in Sudbury, Ontario. She wrote the blog entry, My Green Sudbury, on the 1 Million Acts of Green site. Kathy's one of Al Gore's Climate Project representatives, and she believes she's witnessing the regreening of Sudbury's industrial landscape. Here's her story this morning.
I remember driving through northern Ontario as a child, and my father would stop the car and point out Sudbury and how scarred it is. But when we came here 10 years ago, it was dramatically different. Sudbury is a northern mining town, and it was once famous for its moon-like landscape. The industry here is smelting copper and nickel, and they used to extract the ore out in open pits, and it basically burnt the landscape. Sudbury has shown great environmental leadership, dealing with our previous problem of the scarring of the landscape and the sulfur dioxide that was being produced by the industry. So much so that the United Nations has designated Sudbury as a university for sustainable development. Every time I tell people that we moved to Sudbury because of our daughter's asthma, including Sudburyans, they don't believe us, but it is true. We found that Sudbury had, at that time, one smog day every 2 or 3 years, whereas where we were living in southern Ontario, they had weeks and weeks and weeks of smog days. Behind me here are the slag heaps of Sudbury. They're giant black hills of waste rock. And up until 2 years ago, they were just giant black hills, but now they're being covered in grass. For the last 10 years, we've hiked extensively into this trail. It's called the Laurentian Trail, and I cannot believe the transformation I've seen. When we first moved here, it was mostly birch with a little bit of moss and blueberry underneath it. Especially last summer, I noticed a huge number of ferns as well. There are hundreds and hundreds of trilliums just right outside my backyard in the forest. The trees along the highway just outside of Sudbury have grown tremendously. It is a marked difference between what they were like 10 years ago and what they are now, and what they were like 40 years ago or 30 years ago when my father and our family used to travel up here. Behind me here is Lake Ramsey. It is one of 330 lakes within the city of Sudbury. A lot of these lakes were damaged by the acid rain that had fallen here 30, 40 years ago, but they're bouncing back. The biggest lake is Lake Wanapitei, and it is north of here, and it is the largest lake within the city limits in the entire world. The tipping point with regards to climate change has not been reached. So we have time to reverse what we've done, and I believe we can do that because I see it right here in Sudbury that when there's a big problem on the horizon, humans will rise up to the challenge and be able to overcome this. And we have time, but not much.
The idea, of course, of 1 Million Acts of Green is to rally Canadians to make a difference by doing something for the environment. And what a response so far. We've had about 540,000 acts of green, so we're over halfway there. Go online, tell us about your act. There's the website on your screen.